Today we will read about Abraham Lincoln. When he was president more than 150 years ago, the northern states and the southern states were fighting each other in the Civil War. Our country was at risk of splitting up and becoming two nations. The northern states won the war, and America stayed united. But Lincoln died very soon after the war ended. He never got to see what Americans would accomplish later on. There are many nonfiction books about Lincoln. This book is different. It's a fantasy story about a girl named Quincy who visits the White House and meets the ghost of Abraham Lincoln. I want you to think about, why do you think an author might choose to tell this kind of story about one of our nation's most famous presidents? "1943. Fala couldn't enter that room. Neither would Yuki. 1985. Or Rex. Why do you think that none of the White House dogs would go into that room, whatever it is? Someone said they saw the ghost on the 12th of February, but on that day, everyone was wearing stovepipe hats, so who could tell? A girl wandering from her tour discovered a tall man standing over the Gettysburg Address. "Hi," said Quincy. "Hello, child," he said. He was dressed in black from hat to boot, but she wasn't frightened. He had a long face that made her feel sorry for him. "Are you lost?" she asked. "I don't think so," he said, walking through a wall. "You look confused." "Why, I'm right as rain," he said. "Sure?" "Well, not really, no. Ghosts are no good at telling fibs," he said. "You can see right through them." "That is a very silly joke," she said. Quincy thinks Lincoln tells silly jokes. In the illustrations we have seen so far, Lincoln doesn't look silly. He doesn't even smile. Why do you think the author and illustrator chose to make Lincoln look so serious? He returned with a rose. "Truth is, I'm thinking of a dream I had last night," he said. "It's always the same. I'm on a ship sailing rapidly for some shore I know not where. In my nightmares, I'm in class," she said, "naked as a jaybird. Totally embarrassing." "I wouldn't worry. That's a common dream," he said, "like the one where bears have gotten into your cabin." He paced the floor. "You're tall," she said, taking 4 steps to his one. "Do you know how long a man's legs should be?" he asked. "No." "Long enough to reach the floor." She thought this joke was sillier than the last, but she laughed to be polite. "I apologize if I appear restless, but there was so much to do beyond 1865. Our union was so fragile, so uncertain, like that ship on the rocky sea." She led him to the door. "Oh, no, I never leave the executive mansion," he protested. "You should," she said. "A lot has changed since 1865, including the name of the executive mansion. We just call it the White House now." The ghost did the flying. The girl answered the questions. "Are the states united?" he asked. "Did that work out?" "Yes, that worked out fine." "And equality for all?" he asked. "That's working out too," she said. "It's getting better all the time." Lincoln was uncertain about how things turned out after 1865. He asks Quincy about equality for all. Why do you think he's so curious about what life is like today? "And man," he asked, "does he no longer fuss and fight with his fellow man?" We're still working on that one." "But I think overall the founding fathers would be proud of our progress, don't you?" said Quincy. "Why, I think they would be over the moon." "Over the moon, yes. There's one last thing I want to show you," she said. "My stars," he said, "we have come a long way. 3 cheers and ballyhoo." What are some things that the author has Quincy show Lincoln about our country now? How does that show satisfy his curiosity? His tour over, he returned her to hers as he began to disappear one final time. "Knock, knock," she said. "Who's there?" he said. "Orange." "Orange who?" "Orange, you feeling better now?" "That is a very silly joke," he said. That night Quincy had a dream. She dreamed of a man, a tall man in black, on a boat moving rapidly toward the rising sun. He was smiling. And this is an afterword. So afterwords are when the author feels that they need to give some usually historical context, which means they're giving you some background history as to what the book was about. So let's look at the afterword here. Mr. Lincoln's dream. The morning of his assassination, April 14th, 1865, President Lincoln was haunted by a dream from the night before. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that. He told his cabinet members he had seen himself in an undescribable vessel moving rapidly toward an indistinct shore. In fact, this was the dream the president had several times, often before a momentous event. Then they also wanted to give you some background information on presidential pooches. The dogs featured in this book are Fala, the Scottish Terrier of Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the 32nd president; Yuki, the mixed breed of Lyndon Johnson, the 36th president; and Rex, the Cavalier King Charles Spaniel of Ronald Reagan, 40th president, who drove the occupants of the White House crazy with his barking at the Lincoln bedroom.